Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to set up my little machine right here, so I'm going to be ready. Just a second. Computer problems. All right. So when I was the age of 9 to 10 years, I used to watch this show. It was called WWE. I'm not sure how many of you guys are familiar with that show. I'll take that. There's a couple laughs. So this is not an inside joke, but thanks for laughing. So when I watched it, it was a fun time because you had a bunch of big buff dudes pseudo-fighting in a ring, which was saturated with drama. It was a male's version of Days of Our Lives. Well, anyways, I became really fond of one such character in there, and his name was Chris Benoit. My father would know him. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar. But anyways, he was a paramount of strength, a man of charisma, and a foundation of good for the show. He was everything I wanted to be. I wanted to be the charismatic one, the one who was strong, the person who could be a foundation for many. And that's part of the reason why I really looked up to him. But after actually a while ago, it was June 24th, 2007, I got back from a baseball game, and I found out when I got home that my hero, my man that I idolized, died. But he didn't die in a manner which was viewed right. He ended up actually killing his own kids and his wife. This was not a justifiable way to go. Further news, well, that was my further news. I was shocked and stunned. I couldn't believe that my hero was a man who could be so malevolent, so misguided. The letdown was a reality. And that was something that I was not used to when I was at that age. Letdown was not a word in my vocabulary. But with that letdown, I realized that people are only people. And you can't, sorry, I'm a little stuck here. Well, anyways, the people are only people. And the fact is that I had to look towards more people that I could rely on, to be someone that I could look up to, someone that I could be influenced by. And that didn't regard people on reality TV shows such as that or Jersey Shore. So I began to look to people that I took for granted, like my father and mother. They were people that I could rely on, have faith in, trust. Those are the people that I became reliant on in my early life, the people that I looked up to, that were influenced by. But I was also influenced by many other people, which I found out that a lot of people that you look up to is constantly changing. You're not going to look up to, let's say I look up to Steve one day, he might do something, I might look up to someone else the next day because my needs are different. So in that sense, we're always moving up, looking up for more people. So in that part of my life, I was much like a low note on a key, on a piano. I was very rudimentary, and I didn't have much to follow. I was just a man looking up to other people. And then later on in my life, I progressed further, and I found out in recent times that I'm like the person I'm most influenced by is the name of Michio Kaku, who is a doctorate in physics. And I found he was influential because he's a man who can convey complex ideas in the most simple way, which was something that I loved. But I also realized that this person had a truly arrogant side to him, which is something you're not going to want to aspire to. And I realized at that point in my life that there's really no one I can look up to and have all the traits I want to aspire to be like. But I did realize one person, and his name was Jesus. And to realize this Jesus person a little bit more, I had to understand him if I wanted to be like him. So the best way to understand someone is to learn about them. And to learn about them is a lot more enjoyable if you're learning with other people. So I decided to join Sunday school and teach with one Peyton Jordahl sitting over there. So we began to teach third grade. And our main objective for the year was to teach them the 10 Commandments. But for a third grader, how much fun is that? You'd rather go out, playing some baseball, having some fun. So we had to spice it up a little bit to make them so they truly wanted to learn the 10 Commandments. And we found the best way to do that, I guess, was to allow them to put makeup on their faces. We thought that would influence them a little bit. So 3 months later, it was about Easter time, we took them out individually, and we tested whether or not they could remember all 10 commandments. And to our pleasant surprise, every single one passed it. Everyone knew these commandments well. So we knew what that meant for us. Our faces were going to look slightly different for that afternoon. So we sat down on our chairs, and we allowed them to put some makeup on their faces. And we thought what they would do is, just put some lipstick on our lips and some mascara, kind of make us look like drag queens. No, it was 10 times worse. We looked like a bunch of clowns. We were ready for Cirque du Soleil. How do you say that? Cirque du Soleil? Yeah, we were ready for them. We were prime time. But I realized when all these kids were taking pride putting lipstick on their faces, that they were coming together, they were unified, that they were doing something that I never felt before. They were looking up to us. And I reached a point in my life where I was no longer just looking up to people. I was being looked up to. I progressed up the piano's keys, and I was reaching the middle notes in my life, where not only was I being influenced, but I was influencing others. As Kate stated earlier with Mark 10, verse 42 through 45, which actually I do not have up here. I'm a little underprepared. Well, you guys remember, you got it? Perfect. Thank you. So Mark 10, 42 through 45. So Jesus called them and said to them, "You know that among the Gentiles, those whom they recognize as the rulers lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. But it is not so among you. But whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be your first among you must be a slave of all. For the Son of Man cannot be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." So many people at this point in their life, when they're starting to influence others, and they're not just looking up to other people, they reach a point in their life which they can start abusing that influence. And that's a point in life where I have to suggest, look up to Jesus. Jesus is a man who is the greatest influence of all. He not only was extremely influential, he was also a man of complete humble nature, which is something to truly strive for. All of us in this room, in this town, and in this world are at different points or stages in our influence. And we all feed off each other to become a little more influential ourselves. I know for me, those kids at Sunday school, they were the most influential people I've had in my life. Like a piano, the highest note influences the lowest note. And the lowest note influences the highest. And I believe God knows one thing, that we can't necessarily reach that highest note. But he made us into this giant wave of piano where everyone has their own influence. Everyone's at a different level. And he essentially, all the notes lined up to make a great piano where if you come together, you influence one person, they'll influence you, and together that makes a beautiful song. And that really strikes a chord. And all God's people said, amen.